My mechanic quoted me over $1,000 to change the brakes and rotors of this car. I'm gonna do it for a third of the price and show you how. And if you think me knowing absolutely nothing about cars is gonna stop me from doing this, then you're dead wrong. Before starting on the job, you're gonna make sure you have the right parts and tools. You're gonna need brake pads and rotors. I recommend having a breaker bar, a torque wrench, an adjustable socket wrench, probably a set with a bunch of different sockets on it for all the bolts you'll need. There's probably a few things I'm missing, but I'll make sure to leave them all on the screen so that you can have all the information you need.
I got some rotors and some brake pads and this brake compressor. Oh yeah, I also got some jack stands. More importantly than any of this, I got a Chris Fix video. That's all I need. All right, let's figure out how to get this puppy up. I did not get one of those nice hydraulic jack stand things, so we're just gonna use the tire replacement kit that comes in the car, and hopefully that's all right. I'm gonna put a wheel block in the back to make sure it doesn't roll. Let's try to get the jack stand out of the car. It looks like it's not gonna fit. Look at that, jack stand secured. I know it's a little scary to like push the car, but you really do want to push this because if this falls when you're working on it and you're like kind of under it a little bit, that's dangerous. I'm just thinking now that this job would have been probably 10 times easier if I would have gotten a hydraulic jack.
I did not get one of those nice hydraulic jack stand things.
Let's go to the other side. Woo! The car has been lifted. Let's get the wheel off. Okay, and it comes off just like that. When you're working on rotors like this, it's a good idea to move the wheel so that it's easier to get to the screws. Now I can get to these a lot easier. As long as you have a long lever arm, it should be able to act like a breaker bar. I did get the torque wrench, but the instructions say specifically do not use this as a breaker bar. So I just got a regular wrench and a hammer.
Bruh.
I'm like thinking like righty tighty lefty loosey. Because it's on the other side, this is righty and that's loosey. Let's see. Okay, woo, I got it. All right, I think I found the right size. I think like a 12 millimeter. Nope, it's actually not too bad. Wow, look at that. Okay. Look at that rust. Oh my God, that's disgusting. So these are the brake pads. This one here and this one here. I don't know what the fuck this metal is. Luckily this has a little pry bar here. Yeah. All right, it came out. So this is the old brake pads and these are the new brake pads. They honestly don't look that different. There's a pretty big difference in terms of the amount of pad left. This just has significantly more. You take this off, you want to make sure it doesn't fall. It already kind of fell a little bit for me. There. Now that's secure. I had a little break. And I also got gloves because my hands were starting to get a little irritated and we're about to start cleaning and putting a bunch of chemicals on this and I don't really want that on my hands. Woo! That works so easy. Oh my God, I could have just done this whole time. Can you believe I wasted like 30 minutes on this? Let's do the next one. Oh my God, that was so easy. Look at that. Now that I use the breaker bar, this just comes off with my hands. Once we take this off, the caliper should just come off. Bam, look at that. Look at that beaut. I used some of this EB Blaster penetrating catalyst. And that worked well. I've heard that WD-40 works well. But putting that on the screw, setting it for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Another thing I did is I got Phillips head 3. Make sure it's Phillips head flat, not PZ3, PH3. And I just hit it with a hammer, like pretty hard. It's pretty hard to get out, but you just wiggle a little bit. Look, it's already coming out. And I could just do this with my hands. Wow, look at that. Woo! Success. Let's get the new rotor on here. But first, I got some paint trays here. We just want to make sure to remove some of this rust so the new brake rotor can just sit flush on here. So I think that's good. Let's blast that a little bit with some brake cleaner. All right, that got everywhere. Oh, that dries so fast. So these are the front ones I checked and the holes all match up. We do want to clean this because apparently these have an oil on them that you kind of want to remove before setting in. And then just wipe it down. All right, and let's put this on. Okay, perfect. Let's work on the caliper. It's important when you are replacing these that you replace the guide pin. You want to clean this. Let me just make sure I got the right lube before I clean it because this needs to be lubricated. So I got some brake lubricant. It says perfect for caliper guides. Let's clean this. Okay. All right, that is well lubricated. Let's install this back on. All right, let's get these bolts back in. Let's torque this up to spec. It should be between 90 and 100. New day, new me. As you can see, this is not completed. I worked on this until 4 a.m. And then I realized, I was like pretty much done with it, and then I realized I broke something. This bolt, when I was trying to screw it in, I kept tightening it, and then it would get loose, and I had to tighten it again. And I was like, what's going on? And I looked it up. Apparently that happens whenever you strip the thread. So I took it out and I looked it over, and it had this metal. So this is like worst case scenario, because the thread is actually fine here. The thread is broken in the caliper.
There you go.
Really, the mistake that I made here was when I looked up information for the torque pounds for the calipers itself, I saw that everyone was kind of saying like a range, 80 to 100. I was just thinking, okay, if it could be anywhere in that range, I'll just choose like 95 or something. It'll be all right. That's what I did. I chose 95. That 80 to 100 range just means that in general, cars can vary from 80 to 100. Each car still has a specific spec that it should be at. This car spec is 80. This should not be 95, and that's why this happens. Now I have a slightly expensive repair, way more annoying than anything I've been doing, because now I need to replace the brake calipers. When you replace the brake calipers, the brake hose has to come off, which is gonna cause brake fluid to fall out and cause air to get into brake fluid. You can't have air in brake fluid, so now I'm gonna need to bleed the brake fluid for a bit on all of the calipers, and then I have to replenish it. Make sure you look at the torque spec for your specific car. Don't just use the torque spec in general. Otherwise, you'll be buying a new caliper. We actually want to clean this out a bit because it has an insane amount of rust. Look at all of that. There is an insane amount of dust here. The next thing we have to do is get the old brake pads, and we're gonna use them to help us compress this brake. So this is the thing that pushes the brake pad into the rotor. And because our new brake pads are gonna be thicker than these old ones, they're not gonna fit in here unless we compress this. You're gonna be able to see this go in as this compresses. You can see now this is like kind of flush. I just add the smallest amount of little anti-seize here. This is where the brakes slide across. All right, now let's install the brake pads back. There we go. Now these are both in. Now we can put the caliper bracket back on. All right, now all we have to do is put the tire back on. You know how we compress that brake piston? We want to press the brakes until that brake piston is snug with the brakes now. Okay, it's on. Let's put on some lug nuts just to hold the wheel in place. Because I already did the side, I think I'm not going to show you the other side. It's the same thing, but just the other way. I'll show you when I do the back though, which will probably end up being tomorrow. I mean, it is late. That's everything you need to know. Man, there's so many parts about this that sucked. But you know, it didn't suck? Saving a shit ton of money. That part rocked. But this is pretty much it. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions. I'm not a car guy. I'm more of a DIY guy. I like to learn. I like to do things. I didn't know anything about this until I did it today. All I did this was with YouTube videos and trial and error. And hopefully with my trial and error, you can do it with just YouTube videos. All right, we're gonna test the brakes. All right, Meg, try to go as fast as you can and then brake. And then brake, 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 brake. All right, that was good.
Woo!
And no lights on the dash.
Yay! They all
Nothing
cleared.
broken. There were some lights for like a little bit, but then we drove around for like a few minutes and they went away.